So welcome everyone. I hope everybody had his shot of caffeine after lunch so we can start energized in that session. Fabian Urich, CPO and pricing expert at Quicklizard, and I'm really excited to welcome you to today's session about the 4 ways of shopping. Before we begin, please note that this webinar is being recorded and we'll make it available after the session so you can have a look or forward it to friends. Over the next 30 minutes, we will explore how the shopping experience is evolving from the way consumers discover products on platforms like TikTok to how AI reshapes the journey of inspiration to purchase. And finally, and most important of all for me, how pricing technology is tying this all together. I'm joined by two fantastic guests, Katrin Schwan, Managing Director and Head of AI and Data at Accenture DACH, who will share how AI is redefining the consumer journey, and Ilya Simonenko, Strategy and Operations Leader at TikTok Shop Europe, who will give us inside look at how social commerce is reshaping retail. We've got a lot to cover, so stick with us. The Q&A is open. If you want to drop a question, just do so anytime. And now let's get started. To warm up, we begin with the first 2 waves. And I keep them short and easy because they are the ones everybody is probably well aware of before we move to the more interesting stuff later on. Starting with wave 1, category browsing. So that actually was the era of department stores in the offline world and their transition or translation into the online space. I would call it like category browsing based shopping. Products are organized by the category tree and you browse along the different elements and categories to find what you need in a physical store along the shelf, in a virtual store in the category tree. These are shops like Yahoo, and everything is structured by the way the products are systematized. In Germany or Europe, Zooplus is one of the players coming out of that time. It's the late 90s when they started. They are still very successful. And if you look at the web shop, you already see like that structural approach towards shopping. Wave 2, I would say starting in 2010, it's what I would call, what we would call search and filter-based shopping. So instead of browsing through the shelf or browsing through the category tree, the consumers actually type in the specific product, the specific requirements into the search window, and then the shop is showing the results. I think the biggest and most prominent player in that game is Amazon, and customers usually don't try to navigate through millions of products, they just type it in the search bar. The next wave, now we are really coming to the interesting stuff. You could argue it's inspired by teleshopping, but I'm sure there is much more and many new inventions coming, and that's what we would call social shopping or discovery commerce. Ilya, TikTok Shop has become such a powerful engine. Can you tell us how TikTok Shop is changing the way people are discovering and buying products?
For sure. Thank you, Fabian, for the introduction, and very excited to be here and to share a little bit about the growth of TikTok Shop and its origin and its expansion now across the different European markets. To take your description, I would even put a wave 0 in the beginning, because before we had department stores, right, we had sort of one-on-one shopkeepers, and this interaction between the shopkeeper who had some stock to sell, who had some products that came with different stories, and the actual customers that would face them is something that has been lost, firstly in the department stores, and then especially as we expanded into the e-commerce browsing catalog style that is so common today. And it's of course a great invention, but at the same time, there's an element that has been forfeited throughout this whole journey. And TikTok Shop in many ways brings us back to that original interaction between the shopkeeper and the patrons, the different customers, where especially through the live shopping modality about which I'll speak throughout this session, we gave back the ability of the different shopkeepers, the different sellers, to connect directly with the customers, to showcase their products, to tell the stories of their products, and to also respond and interact with the customers during the live shopping session. The big difference is, of course, where a shopkeeper would be able to interact with one, two, maybe a couple customers at once. In a live shopping session, you have hundreds and thousands of customers thousands of potential buyers. And that's how really TikTok Shop has scaled originally from its origin in China in 2020, through then scaling into the other modalities as well. And currently in the UK, we have 6,000 live sessions every single day that are happening on the platform from all kinds of categories, pre-owned collectibles, home cleaning, pet supplies, you name it. And similarly, this is now expanding to Germany, to other European countries. What's really helpful is that this format allows the buyers to understand in real time how does this item potentially fit their wardrobe, fit their home. It's very popular in fashion, for example. And then the sellers similarly can showcase their products and to really describe their different features in a way that they see fit. And they would describe rolling sets of products. For me, when I attend these live sessions, both as a viewer, but especially if you have a chance to attend some of them in person, being there in this live setup, which is a very interesting high-tech setup where you have different cameras, screens with a lot of data, because it's very important to analyze it to minute detail, understand what interacts better with the consumers to then adjust and tailor the script. You get the true energy from the live hosts and also from this whole selling environment. What's adjacent to live shopping is, of course, the shoppable video, which is a different way where you can sort of freeze in real time your proposition as a merchant or as a creator, which are a very important part of our ecosystem, and then project it not in real time, but sort of in this recurring fashion when the consumer is able and excited to browse. And these are some of our core pillars. We also do search-based shopping on TikTok Shop as well, if you're able to access it in the app. But at the same time, the distinctive feature that TikTok Shop has is really the discovery commerce angle that's exemplified by the live shopping that is real time. And then secondly, by the shoppable video, which is a sort of this frozen projection that the merchant or their creator does.
I think you brought up a good point. The waves are not there to disappear, they are persisting. You said there is search within TikTok, and you see Amazon is still successful, Zooplus is still successful. So it's not like one wave coming after the other. It's actually more options for the shoppers to get buying, and also probably depending on the shopper style, what format and platform he prefers. Maybe now moving to the fourth wave, which is about to emerge, Katrin. So why discovery commerce is actually in the I would say in the uptake of the hockey stick. A new trend is already coming up and emerging: agentic commerce. Accenture has
Yes.
been at the forefront of that topic. And how do you see AI agents transforming the consumer journey? What are the biggest challenges when it comes to data, ethical concerns that companies face when going for more for personalization?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Fabian and Ilya. It's really good to be with you on this webinar. I hope I'm audible. Is that cool? Perfect, perfect. So agentic, and I think what you just said, Ilya, is absolutely true. It's not like these are sequential waves and the first one is no longer success or anything, but I think agentic is actually adding yet another layer, another option for consumers to spend the money, and also for obviously a B2B commerce to emerge. And just to make that a little bit more transparent, think about agents as little helpers that will be having shopping decision making, including also the authority to fulfill with regards to payment and also then potentially process returns and everything. So you can already see how this is actually quite helpful to us humans right now. But I would agree that it's just another way of how we purchase. It's not necessarily replacing any of the other waves. It's just adding more options in such a way it's positive. To me, it actually fits into this view of the centaur human, where you are enabled by a little bit of a digital exoskeleton to actually, even do more smart purchase decisions. Let me pick two examples. So for instance, I was shopping for an electric toothbrush. Which is usually not an item where you say, well, branding plays a significant role, such as like I would be purchasing like a designer handbag, let's say. And the electrical toothbrush has also some additional services, like for instance, warranty. How do I return? Where do I get accessories for it? And so on and so forth. So as a human, I'm actually really prone to what you described, Ilya. Watching a video, how does this work? Hearing a story of somebody who already uses this toothbrush, like for instance, an influencer who shows, also a little bit the pitfalls, potentially a little bit of gamification around it. This is how I shop. But then there is this other way, which is also important for the decision. Of course, the pricing, as you rightly say, Fabian, plays a role. There's a huge difference. And I, as a human, take a ton of time to obtain the transparency across all the offers that are accessible to me digitally. Second, warranty, what are the terms and conditions, and so on and so forth. And here, Agentic can truly help me by actually going out there on my instructions and making these also, let's say, components of my purchasing decision very transparent to me. And this is where I believe Agentic will actually reset the art of shopping, the art of purchasing, because it will help us surface these sorts of aspects, whereas we know it's not as strong in what's also important to our purchasing, as in like brand loyalty, anecdotes, user experience that comes with an emotional flavor, and so on and so forth. So all in all, I think we are up for a very interesting new aspect in this further now last wave of shopping that we see happening right now.
Well, you're calling it last wave of shopping. Who knows? Maybe there's a fifth
For
wave
now,
shopping.
you're
And
right. We
actually,
don't know.
this is now the question. I would say now, you being at the forefront of these developments on shopping, what do you think is going to be the next thing, or what are the key trends that are happening and changing shopping going forward? Is it deeper personalization? Is it more immersive experiences, or what's coming next? Ilya, do you see that? I guess being a TikTok shop, you're like at the forefront, what it means, like picture catching up the demand signals, anything you can observe already.
No, I think being on our platform, it's really exciting in the sense that it's constantly evolving. As we see it scaling originally from sort of China during the pandemic to globally now. And firstly, it was really heavily live focused. Then it was the sort of shoppable video became a bit bigger. Then also just the regular search-based shopping is expanding as well. And actually for us in China, regular search-based shopping is one of the priorities, because if the goal of the company, which it is to sort of become number one e-commerce player in the country, you cannot do it by discovery commerce alone. So it's really interesting how it all intermingles in the sense. Looking ahead to 2026, particularly for the UK and the EU, I would say that two of the trends that I would see most are, number one, are further scaling of bigger D2C merchants on these different channels. D2C as a sort of channel with paid marketing acquisition is, of course, an important one, but with the emergence of discovery commerce, this really presents a great opportunity for D2C players, as well as also enterprise players who are excited to embrace these different shopping modalities. On TikTok Shop here in the UK, we have examples of both some of the bigger, the more established brands that are really sort of launching and scaling significantly on the platform. For example, in June, we had Crocs launch, and with a couple of their different quirky items that are tailored towards TikTok Shop, like a special AirPods case and different types of footwear, which is, of course, a huge established brand. At the same time, we have brands like Yasclean, which you probably wouldn't have heard of, but it's actually a creator that has turned into a brand, and now it's one of the biggest brands in home care in the category, and they're really able to leverage their both ability to harness the quality of the product, but then also the ability to properly tell the product story to the consumer. And currently on TikTok Shop here in the UK, we have over 200,000 small businesses that are growing on the platform, and many of them are becoming to be really scaled enterprises of their own nature. And I think 2025 was a big turning year that we're also now replicating in Germany and other countries as well, where we really have become bigger and bigger with these bigger, more localized, bigger enterprises, and also scaled SMBs. M&S, Lidl, Sainsbury's, Shark Ninja would be some of the other ones some of the other big name brands that have joined the platform as well over this time. I think the other element is the further scaling of lives. Live is it's a huge, right? In many countries, it's the #1 shopping modality for TikTok Shop. When it comes to China, when it comes to Southeast Asia, in Europe, it is smaller. It is somewhat bigger in the States, but it's also very interesting that this is an area of opportunity, an area of growth, where there's an opportunity to shape consumer habits and to use it as a new medium to help discover your products and help also users understand, your brand story. And it's very interesting to see how that is actually evolving and scaling amongst the community too. And for example, this year we also had QVC launch on the platform, which of course is the OG of live shopping, if you will. And I was just with them yesterday, and it's really exciting to see how they are trying to pivot more and more of their resources towards some of these live shopping medium, predominantly TikTok Shop, but also some of the other ones that are emerging. eBay has launched their own live shopping with a bit of fanfare. So from our point of view, it's really exciting to see more competition appear, because that actually helps develop the whole category. So we see white space as the bigger opportunity versus the danger from the competition.
Thanks a lot. Katrin, anything that you see beyond that, especially through the lens of agents?
Yeah, in fact, I see the effects along the lines that you described, Elia. I think there is a lot of opportunity now for previously, let's say, smaller players that are yet unknown, since agents are not so prone to, let's say, brand loyalty, these sorts of emotional things, unless you specifically prompt. I think there is a big chance, specifically for new brands, to actually emerge if they get the homework done with regards to how do I cater to specific agent requirements when it comes to making purchasing decisions and acting on them. And there is some technical stuff that one has to look after, but it's nothing that's impossible even for small businesses. So I'm seeing as direct to agent an alternative and potentially also complementary way, Elia, to what you're describing with regards to a full shopping experience and live shopping and all these things. So I'm not necessarily even seeing a conflict, because I believe there are some goods that are actually very prone to live shopping experiences, whereas others are potentially more prone to, okay, I just need to kind of get it done very effectively. And it's also an opportunity for marketeers, I think also for producers of products, to see which way do I want to invest in and what do I have to watch out for. One of the dangers that I'm actually seeing emerging is that there is still some, let's say, unclarified security and compliance questions around execution of shopping decisions through agents. For instance, sharing banking details, responsibility and accountability of shopping decisions having been taken, that go all the way right into warranty. If an agent is actually, filling and taking care of a warranty agreement with a company, is this something that is actually legally binding? Can it be that a company, for instance, delegates this C part shopping to an agent and then actually closes, let's say, a veritable warranty agreement with that company? These are the things that I think still need to be clarified. Otherwise, I also see lots of opportunities, specifically also for small businesses, as a complementary way to, for instance, live shopping.
Maybe just to build on this, I think that in some ways, discovery commerce through lives and through short videos is quite complementary to agents, right? If you think agents are probably going to cannibalize more of the search-based shopping, which consumers would have done themselves, versus discovery commerce, it's a priori the current modality. And in 3 years and 5 years, the modality would shift, but it's directly to the consumer. So the agent cannot get as an intermediary between the merchant and the consumer, which is a bit of I think, a unique ability for the merchant to speak directly to the consumer and to bypass agents, which for some merchants, right, may be very positive, but then for some others, they may be a bit more of a disintermediation factor.
Interesting. I mean, this is a lot of change happening at the moment on the market. Now, looking at all that through my pricing lens, curious to see what that means. I mean, if we think back about the category-based shopping, it was mainly about having a proper price architecture on consistent pricing, because that's also the way shoppers were navigating in their journey, like having a proper pack price architecture, the brand price ladder, having a curated shelf. That's what you had to do, and that was also a rather simple task in pricing. In the next wave of search-based shopping, competition became the key lever, because it's very easy to look for the same product at different websites in different shops, and it's super important to have the right price relative to your competitors all the time. And if there have been changes, you could always do like a proper analysis of the latest keyword trends, so you can adapt over time to the change in the search behavior. Now, the big disruption with discovery shopping and agentic shopping in our experience is there is no curation, there is no long-term search trends anymore. Like very short-term trends can arise, and products that you would have said they are long tail in the past, they are not long tail anymore. There is no long tail anymore. Like any point of time, there could be limelight, spot on a specific product that you would never have thought of would trend up. And that means for pricing, you cannot just focus your pricing on your top sellers, on your KPIs, on the latest trends. You need to be always ready for the pricing of every product, because everything can become a trend tomorrow because of some influencer trending it up, because of some agents finding that this product seems to satisfy very specific needs and user requests. So that's really the big challenge. And that's obviously something you cannot do with a manual approach of price optimization. That's something where clearly automation and optimization with data-driven signals will be essential to make sure that once these trends are rising up, that you're ready and that the prices are ready and you're able to earn money from sale one, and you're even able to adapt quickly and potentially optimize according to the trend cycle and the trend curve. So that is, I would say, the key thing that we see on the pricing side. Katrin, you looked like you wanted to comment or add.
Yeah, it's actually also an advantage, I think, for producers, because oftentimes specific features that should actually influence, the value of a product to a consumer are not surfaced enough. Like, for instance, we are producing sustainably, we are only using such and such ingredients, and so on and so forth. Sometimes it's just not surfaced right through the marketing. However, with an agentic framework, actually completely scraping this data, or actually even being given through API legal access, where you can, curate what actually you tell this agent to then inform a purchase decision. That's something where I see big chances, big potentials, also specifically what you call the long tail nowadays long tail products. And I agree, the long tail will go away. So what we will, however, see, and that's to me adding fierce competition, is a lot more transparency around pricing, regarding what are your added services, what are your quality features, things that humans do not necessarily research in this depth and breadth. That will now inform purchase decisions. And also we will be seeing very unemotional negotiation through agents, because you don't have to face a human and look them in the eye and say, I want 10% less, which some people can do, but some cannot. The agent is free of these emotional attachments, to a person or any sort of like shame or something. But this will be putting pressure on the pricing. It will, with the more transparency, I think we will be seeing a tendency of prices going down. So that's what I foresee when agentic will take over or will become more popular in taking purchase decisions.
Sounds very reasonable. And from a pricing lens, I don't want to add anything more to that. Despite one observation, if you think about it, that like black and white, the agents are like, as you said, the more rational, unemotional shopping. The discovery is the exact opposite. It's the emotional, inspirational shopping. So it's two different target audiences. At the same time, it also can be complementing each other. It's really interesting to see what's coming in the next years. With that, I think we are done with our main content, or with our main discussion points that we have prepared. And Just checking if there's any questions from the Q&A and audience that we want to pick up, and then happy to end like after roughly 30 minutes. I know it's scheduled for 45 in LinkedIn, but I think 30 minutes is the right time to aim for. But let's first see at the Q&A. There's something. Let me have a look. Katrin, ready. There is one for you. What's a very
Ready.
practical step a retailer should take this
Yeah.
this quarter to prepare for agentic commerce? So that's a very concrete question.
Yeah. Agents usually don't interpret anything that humans appreciate very well, like for instance, images, PDFs in sort of like forms or any of that. Make sure that you have that data that informs purchase decisions in a machine readable format. For applications, provide API so that agents can easily enter the app and get the required information. Be very clear and concise. Don't do the, let's say, marketing waffle that you find sometimes on pages. In any case, depending on how you actually gear towards the audiences, potentially think of actually, let's say, a non-human readable version of the page that is only for agents, depending on how far you actually want to take it. But these are effectively the two different needs. A human is very much geared towards an experience, towards emotion, consuming pictures, not in much liking of long text, whereas an agent actually wants clear, structured information. It has to be machine readable. There is no emotions unless specifically prompted that will turn the purchase decision towards such a product. Keep that in mind, some practical tips. And what I would be saying is test and try is the name of the hour, the name of the game now, because this is a very, very new field. So practical evidence is still, let's say, quite shallow.
That makes sense. Now let me pick one last question, and to make it fair, Ilya, I'll find some for you, and then everybody else who is not yet answered or who has questions after the webinar, just feel free to ping us. I mean, you have the contact details from LinkedIn. But Ilya, now for you. For brands new to TikTok Shop, what's the single most effective content format to test first?
I think that's a great question, right? I think as a brand scales on TikTok Shop, it's quite important to try different types of content, right? Both shoppable videos and lives are important if you want to scale. Typically, we would see a brand starting with shoppable videos and making sure that there are different creatives available to try it out. And it's super, super, super important to also work with influencers and creators. And you can, of course, curate it to pick the influencers that are most aligned with your brand. But we see creators as the really important second side of the coin, because while as basically as merchants, right, as sellers, you are best at selling. At the same time, when it comes to creating content, nobody can do it better than some of our creators. And we see creators that are achieving sort of fantastic results. Just yesterday, we had our annual awards, and there we recognized some creators who have achieved, for example, $500,000 in sales in a month, or over $1 million or £1 million in sales in a quarter, just to recall a couple of them in beauty and in electronics, respectively. So they're quite professional actors who can really help you scale the brand. Where from the merchant side, it's important to send out different product samples so the creator can properly experience and then portray and advertise the product. As you scale, it's then important to also consider live as a shopping modality, but that's typically sort of the next frontier, which happens quite quickly, but typically happens after short video. And there, being able to create an engaging live environment, doing it yourself, or also working with creators to do creator live for you, are different modalities to help you scale there. But typically what we see working best is, of course, quality of the content matters, but also the quantity of production is probably an even more important factor for two reasons. One is that as you produce more and more content, the quality actually goes up because there's a sort of a natural learning curve. Secondly, the algorithm that's behind TikTok is also kind of the same, but of course, adapted algorithm for TikTok Shop. So it's able to deploy your creatives and your products better to the consumers. And the more creatives that are available, the more it's able to test what works better with what kind of audience, and then make very personalized suggestions to each different consumer. So in a way, it's better to have 100 pieces of content that you're creating with the help of creators over some period versus 10, because then those 100 pieces can be deployed, and there's probably going to be a couple of hero videos that are really making the biggest sales.
I'm kind of detecting some kind of a pattern. It seems to be about testing and learning along the way. And I can only underline that's also the same for pricing. It's a pricing journey to test different things and learn along the way. With that, ending exactly after 30 minutes, because we started 2 minutes late, I want to thank you, Katrin and Ilya, very much for taking the time, and also the audience for active participation. And feel free to reach out to us after the webinar anytime if you want to get in touch and have any questions.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Happy
Bye-bye.
shopping.